showtime.
Good morning, Vietnam! Welcome to the party, pal!
See you at the party, Richter!
I didn't kill my wife! I don't care!
Get away from her, you bitch!
I'll be back.
I'll be back.
You did not gonna say that, did you?
What I do have are a very particular set of skills.
The dude abides.
I'm not bad. I'm just drawn that way.
Inconceivable!
Little Dallas multipass.
This is a tasty burger.
Face.
Want to hear the most annoying sound in the world?
Do or do not. There is no try.
Dead or alive, you are coming with me.
I'm the bad guy?
And Hulk, smash.
I can speak with an English accent. Hit the hash pipe and join the National Guard. I could be elected president.
You went over my helmet?
What would you prefer? Yellow spandex?
I know, right?
The list is in the open!
Hey, where are the white women at?
They're digging in the wrong place.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
Are you not entertained?
Second start of the ride. And straight on till morning.
Meow.
You son of a bitch.
1.21 gigawatts!
Wax on, wax off.
Oh my goodness, I am sporting a tremendous woody right now.
Bartender is the aristocrat of the working class.
You want to flip 6-3 whole play and you could score.
Cover me.
Dogs and cats living together, fast hysteria. On this team, we fight for that itch.
Might be a tumor.
It's not a tumor.
No ticket.
No ticket.
I get older, they stay the same age.
It's not what you know, it's what you can prove.
I'm a dude playing a dude disguised as another dude. 15.
I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti.
Hope is a good thing. Maybe the best of things. And no good thing ever dies.
Good evening, and welcome to the Reel McCoy. I'm your host, Meffistoe, and usually with me, my hetero life mate, all my feelings. But today I'm doing solo yet again. Well, it is what it is, boys and girls. I am stepping up to the plate and trying to give you my home run, or at least get on base. Well, we'll get to that. What is the Reel McCoy, you might ask? The Reel McCoy is your weekly movie podcast where we ask you to go watch a movie, you watch it, come back to us, and we break it down for you. This month of September, it is Fall Classic. I know it's in October, but trust me, spooky month is delicioso. So we moved the baseball into September for the Fall Classic. You know, September is kind of fall. September 21st is tomorrow, is actual fall starting. So be ready for that. All right. So for the month of September, we said, well, why don't we do just baseball movies? And what about a variation of it? So we did Field of Dreams. We did League of Their Own. So we went sort of back and forth in time. Now we're going into sort of the modern phase, or the start of the modern phase in baseball, and with the one and only Moneyball. Now, I have heard when Moneyball came out, I don't remember going to the theaters. I think ever since my kids popped out and came to the world, my going to the movie days, at least in this, like the early years, were like very few and far between. I don't even remember going into the theater as much, unless it was something like tremendously like I can't miss this. So I went to Infinity War, and before that I went to The Force Awakens and Rogue One, and then of course Infinity War and Endgame. And most of the other stuff I just waited for it to come on, whatever it is. I wasn't really interested in actually going and having this theater experience. So when Moneyball came out, and I wasn't really interested in like watching any baseball movie, but as soon as it came out on like streaming service or a DVD or whatever it was, I was like, I have to watch this. And I absolutely loved it. And I've rewatched the movie several times since then. Several. I admit it. I think I've seen Moneyball more times than I've seen your average Marvel movie. And my chair keeps falling. Hold. Oh. Anyway. Absolutely love Moneyball. And hopefully this entire show would be fun, informative, and great for you guys. So we'll say hello to the chat. For people who are here, we'll say hello to Mr. Snowderpurpusque there. We'll say hello to Kaladin. We will say hello to Griffin. Thank you for joining us. Feckless Finn, all the way down under. Welcome. And of course, all the lurkers that have traveled from the Salty Nerd podcast and are sitting there just enjoying the show. Thank you. Let us begin without any more pleasantries. And if somebody wants to know where All My Feelings is, he is in a track meet that his son is having, and he's very proud of his son. So he is there, and he's not here with us. He's doing stuff that is a little bit more important than internet. I, however, have kids that don't run track meet at 10 p.m. at night. Luckily. All right, let's start the show as we always do with a little segment we like to call Behind the Screens.
Sound production, take 2.
Behind the Screens is where we turn to me and get the lowdown on everything that is behind the scenes, all that good stuff, right? Production-wise, all that stuff. And there's a little addendum that has to do with Moneyball, but it will come at the very end of that segment. Anything you want to share, anything you want to say, please write it down in the chat, and I will try and grab it as much as I can. Just know that it is very rough to do production stuff, talk, and look at you guys. But I know you're there, and I've noticed in the past few several times that you gave really good input, and I'll try to engage it as much as I can. All right. In May 2004, and by the way, I think we have a little bit of a mistake because Moneyball didn't came out in 2008. Actually came out 2011, right? Yes, we have a little bit of a dinky poo here. Not to worry. Save changes. We should be Gucci. Yeah, there we go. 2011. All right. So, all the way back in May of 2004, Sony Pictures, or Columbia Pictures, acquired the rights for Michael Lewis's book of the same name called Moneyball, talking all about that miraculous season that the Oakland A's had in 2002. And all the way back then, Sony or Columbia, doesn't matter. I'll say Sony or Columbia, it's the same company. Stan Chervin was hired to write the screenplay. He eventually got credited for the story, not the screenplay itself. Later on in 2008, early 2008, Brad Pitt was attached to the project, and ever since then, he was with the project. You'll see how we get there at the end. And Chervin was then replaced by Steven Zalian, who still has credit on the screenplay. And the project was headed by director David Frankel. Now, Pitt and Frankel met during the Golden Globe week. I think it was a Golden Globe 66, which is like 2008, 2009-ish, just to go over the project. And it seems like it was fine between the two, but then Frankel stepped away like really early before the Oscars, February in 2009. And he was almost immediately replaced by Steven Soderbergh. Now, Steven Soderbergh has already worked with Brad Pitt on Ocean's 11, so the guys knew each other. And Pitt was obviously excited on working with Soderbergh again. Steven Soderbergh is a very talented director, and I do love his work. All right. So Soderbergh decided, once he took over the project, he decided that the movie needs to be very lighthearted. Now, because the book itself has a lot of information about what is the Moneyball project, what is the system. They went in, I think it goes really into the weeds of how Bill James created the system in the book, I mean. And it was a little bit too technical and a little bit too dire for Soderbergh, or at least in his vision. So he said, I want it to be lighthearted and I want it to be funny. So he hired the comedian Dimitri Martin to play the role of Paul D. Podesta. Now, Paul D. Podesta, if you've never heard the name, or if you were not interested, was the guy who was the chief guy to actually help Billy Beane implement the Moneyball. We'll get to that at the very end because there's a few inconsistency. Essentially, Paul D. Podesta, or Dimitri Martin, was playing Paul D. Podesta, and the character was later changed into Peter Brand. We'll get to that in a moment too. And on that role, Steven Soderbergh was like, okay, Dimitri Martin will be sort of that comedian aspect of it, but also I want to hire the guys who were actually there to play themselves. So he was in talks to actually have Scott Hatterberg and David Justice play themselves. Also, he wanted Art Howe, the guy who was the manager, to play himself in the movie. That was his sort of vision, part of his vision, not all of it. And one of the things he wanted to do is intersperse between the scenes. So because it kind of every single moment kind of jumps forward in time, he wanted to intersperse these little like vignettes or little segments of interviews with real life players like Daryl Strawberry and Lenny Dykstra. But of course, things change. They were scheduled to start shooting at around July of 2009. They were actually sort of scheduling shooting at the Oakland Stadium, but just 5 days before filming started, Sony pulled the plug and put the entire project on a turnaround. Now, we've discussed this on the show a few times, but if you don't know, when a studio puts a project on a turnaround, it means that the studio doesn't really want to produce the entire movie, doesn't want to, fund the cost, and it's willing to unload it onto a different studio for them to pick up what's left and do what they want. Essentially, they're selling the copyright to the movie to somebody else to actually produce it and make it into a film, and probably get some kickbacks depending on which deal they have. And they said, anybody can pick this movie up. We don't care. Now, what was the reason? Because there's always a reason. Now, Soderbergh went through several revisions of the script, and sort of that final revision that he did didn't really sit well with the executives because they said that it's a little bit too technical, even though they wanted to make it a little bit more funny and more lighthearted. All the technical stuff was still there, and they didn't really like it. And Sony overall thought that the movie was a little bit too artsy for a $58 million movie. And they asked Steven to, make revisions and change it again. Soderbergh was unwilling to compromise. So much so that reportedly, he gave the chairwoman of Sony at the time, or not gave, but made the head lady of Sony at the time, Amy Pascal, everybody knows that name, to a state of apoplectic. She wasn't mad. She wasn't raging. She was apoplectic, which means, holy shit. She wanted to murder him. So the movie was on a turnaround. However, Paramount didn't want to deal with it. Warner didn't want to deal with it. Universal didn't even want to get close to it. Nobody wanted to touch this project, seemingly. So that was July of 2009. By the end of that year, 2009, and because nobody was picking up the movie, Bennett Miller was hired as director to spearhead the project and maybe try and salvage this whole thing. The first thing that he did was actually fire Dimitri Martin and replace him with Jonah Hill. And he brought Aaron Sorkin to do rewrites on the entire movie. And Sorkin didn't really want to offend Steven Zalen, who wrote the script. So he called him up, he talked to him, and they kind of sat together and did sort of like revised script, and I'll do a revised script and we'll meet in the middle kind of a thing, and sort of do half collab and get to sort of a final script. In early 2010, this was like a few months after Miller was on the project, they submitted a script, and of course, because it's real people here we're talking about, Paul DePodesta got the script. He absolutely hated it because he loved the way they did it with Dimitri Martin, and the new way of doing it with what Miller was trying to do with the character did not sit with him whatsoever. He didn't like his portrayal in the script. So he requested that his name would be completely stricken from this movie. That's why Jonah Hill, who plays Paul DePodesta, essentially has a complete name change, background change, all of that. His entire character was changed in order to make sure he is not Paul DePodesta. But essentially, it's the same role that they did in the Ball Club. All right. A little bit more, and we're done, and I'm going to rest my voice a little bit. In mid-2010, this was around June, July, all the other actors of the cast kind of joined in. Phillip Seymour Hoffman, Robin Wright, Chris Pratt, and Stephen Bishop, the guy who plays David Justice. Now, Chris Pratt was hired under the condition where my chair is falling apart. Was hired under the condition that he loses weight because at the time he was fat Chris Pratt. If anybody remembers Parks and Rec, I don't. I just remember the memes, and in the memes, Chris Pratt is pretty fat. And he lost about 30 pounds for the role. Now, he didn't get jacked. He just lost the pounds to be as slender as he can be. And welcome, Paul Harley. I saw you in the chat. Now, Stephen Bishop is a crazy story, one that I didn't know until I got into sort of like get into the weeds of this movie. Stephen Bishop was a baseball head since he was 4 years old. And when he was 9, he met David Justice when I think he went to a Giants game because he's like a native San Franciscan, I think. he met him in Giant Stadium as a kid, as a 9-year-old. And he told him he wanted to be him as a player. He loved him as a player. Bishop later on got into college, got drafted to the Braves while David Justice was playing for the Braves. He met him on first spring training. I was like, "Do you remember me?" Like, "Who are you?" It's like, "I'm the kid in 9-year-old in Giant Stadium." And Justice said, "I remember you." And he took him under his wing as an Atlanta Brave, which was great because Steven said his entire life, people said he looks exactly like David Justice. All right. Once Bennett Miller got into gear and everything kind of went into production, got into production, Sony wanted to cut the budget as much as humanly possible because they did consider this still sort of an artsy kind of a movie, regardless if Soderbergh was on or not. And they did manage to cut it back to around 47 million down from 56 because Brad Pitt agreed to have a pay cut. Now, the filming itself, most of the stadiums that you see where you don't actually see too much of the crowd, or if you do see the crowd, it's kind of close-ups, was actually done in Dodger Stadium in LA. And it kind of replaced several different other stadiums as much as humanly possible. Plus, they used this field called Blair Field or Blair Stadium, which was sort of a training stadium just for bits and pieces and spring training and all that stuff. But not much. Now, there was another actress that was hired in that round with Phillip Seymour Hoffman and Robin Wright, an actress called Catherine Morris. And she played Billy Bean's second wife. And because they were going for a certain theme with Billy, she was cut entirely from the movie. But if you notice, and I'll try to show it as much as possible, Billy still has a wedding ring that he plays with a little bit throughout some of the scenes in the movie. The thing is, in the final cut or in the director's cut, she is included, and you can see it in the Blu-ray extras, if I'm not mistaken. Now, for those of you who are into gaming outside of the baseball world, you might have been surprised because there is a surprise cameo by Activision CEO Bobby Kotick. He plays one of the owners. I think it's Stephen Schott. And the only reason he did that was a favor to his friend Bennett Miller, who was the director. Now, Miller returned the favor by directing a small short film for Bobby Kotick's veterans charity thing, which is tied into the Call of Duty thing, which is, the game for Activision. All right. Now we'll touch upon the accuracies. There were several different we'll call it modifications that were done for the movie to get a specific theme going and a specific feel going that deviated heavily from real life. One of them, again, is Peter Brand, who there wasn't anyone named Peter Brand in the Oakland A's ball club. It was actually Paul DePodesta. Miguel Tejada and Eric Chavez, who were mentioned, but you only see them sort of in the reels that they grabbed from MLB. So the movie, we'll talk about it when we get to the movie, but the movie's interspersed with real life games as much as humanly possible, and the players or the standings that are playing for different teams are actually trying to match real life games in terms of just the looks, because you barely see them. So Tejada and Chavez were not hired for the team in the Moneyball style. They were actually brought into the team as normal traditional scout method that you see at the start of the movie. But you don't actually see it. They don't talk about it. Art Howe, the manager. Now, he was played by Phillip Seymour Hoffman, and the real Art Howe did not like his portrayal whatsoever. Now, he wasn't as pissed off as Paul DePodesta, but he was very vocal on the fact that, yeah, he butted heads with Billy Beane a lot, but it wasn't to the degree that was portrayed in the movie. He didn't really think that they're playing on his contract again, but he was upset that he didn't get a raise and stuff. And I think he said it was taken out of an interview that he did for SiriusXM, actually, for one of their baseball shows. And he said, well, I had a long-term contract, not as it portrayed in the movie, that I've got 1 year left and nobody wants me. Nobody wanted to give me a raise, but I was expecting a little bit more money and I didn't get enough. And that kind of causes a little bit of a riff between us. And it was actually Scott Hatterberg who confirmed that Art Howe treated him very respectfully, and there was none of the shenanigans you see in the movie at all. At all. We'll talk about it when we get to the movie as well. Billy Beane never actually directly talked to the players, not as much as you see in the movie. He didn't give them advice. He didn't talk to them. He didn't put them in the tape room. None of that happened. And that's been confirmed from almost all the players. Not Jason, the other Giambi, the brother Giambi, and Bradford, who has the weird pitch, were already on the team when kind of the movie timeline suggested that they got on the team after Billy Beane talked about them. So that's a weird inconsistency. Then Giambi and Pena were traded, but not at the same time. Jeremy Giambi, not Jason. Jason was the one that went to the Yankees, and he was shit there. Giambi and Pena both were traded out, but at different times, so it wasn't as. I hate it when she does that. She's like, "Good night, Father." No.
Good night.
All right. Okay, that took me off. Anyway, so they were not traded at the same time as it was in the movie. The Moneyball project. That whole project started way before 2002. Actually started as Billy Beane was kind of moved up to GM, and it wasn't Billy's idea to begin with. It was kind of agreed with the owners and some of the scouts, but it was true that a lot of the scouts and the manager and the assistant managers and a lot of the old heads in the ball club were not happy about it whatsoever. They thought, just like most of baseball thought, that you don't win with statistics at all. Like, they were very old school, much like the movie portrays the Scouts. Very much like that. All right. And to round things off, the movie grossed $110 million and received six Oscar nominations. Best Picture, Best Actor, Best Supporting Actor. I think none of them won, if I'm not mistaken. Or was it Jonah Hill that won? Did Jonah Hill won? Best Supporting Actor. Did he win? No, that's nominations. I'm sorry, chat. No, he just got nominated. Once for Moneyball and once for Wolf of Wall Street. That is it, ladies and gentlemen. That was a lot. I appreciate that you're here. And for some reason, this AC is not up to par. I'm getting hot. Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm getting hot flashes. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we will move to our first game of the night because, we need a little bit of a break from all this information. And we will start. Oh, come on, let's go. I told you, getting production done and doing everything is legitimately difficult. And welcome, Sander, just in time to play our first game of the night. Wait. No, I do not want to open Audacity. Thank you. No. Thank you. All right. First game of the night. You know it. You love it. It's called Missing Marquee. Oh, yowza. That was loud on my ears. Hold on. There we go. There we go. Up there. Missing Marquee is where we take 10 posters of movies, have their chair written off, have their text written off, and I display them, and you guys out there in the chat will have to guess which movie this is. I'm literally, look at me, going down a very small elevator. Oh my God. Let me tell you, chat. Let me tell you guys. It's been a rough month. Let me tell you that much. And that's without having to do this show solo for the past 2 weeks. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. We will do this and that and this, and you'll have to guess which movie this is. Go. Shrinking. Yes, I'm not shrinking. I'm just going down a very, very slow elevator. Very slow elevator. This is, I didn't like this movie. Jay Harang, welcome, sir. Guys, go subscribe to Jay Harang. He does one video a week, and he absolutely smokes it. It is absolutely hilarious. Yes, it is. 13, going on 30. Let's go. Jay, you are hilarious. You are a hilarious man. I didn't like this movie either. And I definitely didn't like the sequel. The sequel was Analyze, this is correct. I need to blow it up because this is essentially the poster. The poster actually has a white background, and it has in the middle where you see that black band. It's where the name of the movie is. Sander Hammerschlag is correct. This is City of God. Kind of a downer movie to me. This movie came out in 1984. One of the greatest, if not the greatest year in movie history. Cocoon is correct. Sandra Hammerschlag got it again. Absolutely love this movie. We covered this movie on the show with, was it with Tom Connors? Think so. Sander is mistaken. This is not Gremlins. But it is, and he corrected himself. Where is it? It is Gremlins 2. It is Gremlins 2. This movie, first of all, it sucks. But it's one of those movies that Nicolas Cage did just to pay the bills. Knowing is correct. Knowing is correct, ladies and gentlemen. That movie, if you've never seen it, I'm happy for you. Sander liked it. You know what? Sander liked it. I didn't. Tomb Raider is correct. Paul Harley, the first Tomb Raider. You know what? We covered this movie not so long ago with our Guy Ritchie month. And since then, I've actually watched it 3 more times. It just came on. I had stuff that I didn't need to do. 2 of those times, I actually watched it with my wife. It's just that good. And I will absolutely highlight Hugh Grant in this movie. This movie brought the best, absolutely the best out of Hugh Grant. I absolutely love this movie. I was so happy that Guy Ritchie sort of got back into form. And it's right up there with Snatch and to God damn it, Lock, Stock. It's just right up there. It's better than Rock and Rolla, for sure. It's way better than Rock and Rolla. Sanders said, I like the series as well. I've been meaning to watch it. I've heard nothing but great things about it. I'm serious, Jay. Hugh Grant, if you take his entire body of work, the closest is Notting Hill. Like the closest. And in Notting Hill, he actually played the same character he played in most of his films. The Aviator is correct, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, The Aviator. This movie gets a bad rap. It's not that bad. It's not. I recently rewatched it. It's not good. It's a solid 7, maybe 6.5. But it's not that bad. The concept is really fucking good. But it made Mr. Sir Sean retire. League of Extraordinary Gentlemen is correct. And that is the end of this segment, ladies and gentlemen. All right, cool. Okay. So let me begin with a little bit of a story. Now, I don't live in the United States, and baseball is very much liked in around 3 places in the world. Like, loved, not liked, loved. In America, it's America's pastime, for sure, right? It's very, very much tied into Americana. Baseball is much more tied to America than even football, because it's such a easy game to get into. It's not as complicated as people make it out to be. It really isn't. The only thing that it is very, very long. It's super long. I've showed my picture of me and the family in Yankee Stadium. If you want me, I can show it again if you guys like. I don't mind. And we sat there like high up, and we really enjoyed ourselves for about 7 innings. And we got up to do the 7-inning stretch where you get up, you stretch your limbs, sing Take Me Out to the Ballpark. After that, we kind of left. We didn't have any, like, it wasn't like this supremely, important game. It wasn't that riveting. It was mostly done by the second inning. It was like 4-1. It was Yankees playing the Oakland A's, which I thought was poetic, because when this time, the 2001 or the early 2000, then 2001, 2002, 2003, up to about 2005, I really followed baseball, especially in the postseason. And the Oakland A's sort of like 20 win streak was something that I followed immensely. Now I'm a Yankee fan, so I didn't really care about the Oakland A's, but it is what it is. But I, at the time, really followed baseball. So when I started to watch this movie, I was like, this is so weird, because this is right around the time where I knew who played for the Yankees. When you see the Yankees beat out the Oakland A's, I actually saw all 5 games, and I knew every single person on the Yankee roster at the time. I don't remember everyone now, but when I saw the pictures, like, okay, Derek Jeter, everybody knows Derek Jeter. Bernie Rodriguez? No. Bernie something. I forgot. See, me and names. But Mariano Rivera was there for sure, and he closed out the game. That last game, that 5th game, that knocked out the A's. And it actually starts the Moneyball. It puts everything in perspective. One of the things that I've actually liked is Bernie Williams. Thank you. The awesome Bernie Williams. Bernie Williams, Scott Brocious, Jorge Posada. Who's on next? Giambi went in a year later. Roger Clemens was the opening pitcher for that game, for that 5th game. And you can actually see him. It's all over the place. So it actually puts Billy Beane right there in, supposedly this was Oakland, but this was one of those stadiums that I talked about, Blair Stadium or whatever, St. Blair, sort of that place that kind of mimicked where it was actually it was, or was it Dodger Stadium that kind of replaced the Oakland A's stadium? And we have that shot of him listening but turning it off, and listening and turning it off. And this is something that is very much like something I used to do a lot. I would get really nervous when my team was like in the final game or in some sort of a playoff situation, all that stuff. I would get really fucking nervous at times. Again, 20 years ago. And I just could not bear to watch certain games, or I had it on, but I was like playing the PC or something. And I could really relate with Billy, where he's the GM. He's supposed to he's the top guy that is not an owner. And he just couldn't watch the games. And they kind of explain it throughout the movie, kind of going back into his past and trying to explain why he's like that. But it doesn't really explain why he's so into not watching games. But it's a trait that is from the start of the movie all the way to the end. With Billy, he just could not do it. And every time he was like, even when they were about to break the record and they were 11-0 up against Kansas City, he just either he thought he was a jinx or he thought he had anything to do with what's happening on, on the field. He just couldn't bear it. Whether or not it's the real trait or not, it doesn't really matter. We're talking just about this movie. And Becky, you love Moneyball? I love Moneyball too. And one of the things that to me sort of makes this movie is not Brad Pitt talking, it's him not talking. And I told you before that Catherine Morris was supposed to play his wife, and she was cut and only like brought back in the final cut or director's cut. And you can tell here he has a wedding ring on. Now they don't explain it, and we do know he has an ex-wife, and his ex-wife has a new husband and all that stuff. But they don't explain the ring, so we kind of infer that he wants to go back to his wife, but he kind of knows it's done for. It's not going to happen. Now, just as a thing, now we kind of said, I kind of said Bobby Kotick was a surprise. When I watched Moneyball for the very first time, I saw this scene and I could not connect Bobby Kotick as this Steven Schott guy and the real Bobby Kotick. For some reason, I had a disconnect in my mind. I said, that could not be the real Bobby Kotick. Years after, 6-7 years after I watched it for the very first time, and I watched it since, like, several times, I just could not make the connection until Kotick was on the news. Something about stuff between Blizzard and Activision and the merger and all that stuff was in the news. And I was like, fuck, the guy was in Moneyball. Rewatched the movie again and was like, how did I not make this connection before? How? It is what it is. Sometimes you just, the dime kind of falls and you're like, holy shit, why is he here? I need to replace this chair, like pronto, and it's a new chair. God damn it. It's one of a few baseball movies I actually like. It's between this and Bull Durham. Bull Durham's a very good baseball movie. Now, I want to, you know what? Let's discuss this a little bit, because Gary from Pop Culture Minefield, a guy who I love and respect, and I join their show every so often. I don't remember if it was live on air or it was, I believe so. It was either late when I was completely tired and we had a discussion that I don't remember was live or not, or was it like behind the scenes? He said that he doesn't consider Moneyball to be a real baseball movie. It's about baseball, but it's not about baseball. He kind of said that Field of Dream is not a baseball movie too, but put that aside. We're not going to discuss that. And I feel like he has a point, because Moneyball doesn't actually deal with stuff that is on the field and not baseball itself. It actually deals with trying to replace the old mentality with the new mentality. And baseball is just a device in this movie. And it's a very interesting perspective that I feel like if it was any other sport, it wouldn't have worked. Plus, it's sort of a semi-biographical in a way. It's not really a biopic, but it is kind of a biopic. And because of the inaccuracies, there was just a little bit too much inaccuracies, especially because how Billy Bean really was acting behind the scenes and the influence from his wife and trying to work with everything. It's a little bit different. So I take the movie as face value and not really a biopic or a baseball biopic or a baseball sort of documentary reenactment, because it's so different, very dramatical and very much looking towards the people rather than the baseball. And that detachment could kind of, I can see where the viewpoint is like, this is not a baseball movie. It's about baseball, but it's not a baseball movie. Not like Bull Durham is, or to me, Field of Dreams is very much so. He is 100% wrong about the Moneyball not being a baseball movie. I think so too. I think that you can't detach the baseball from this movie and make it a different sport. It just doesn't work. It's very unique to the sport. Very unique to the sport. Especially, and like I said, especially because in the way that baseball is being played. And I did say there's 3 places, and I mentioned the US. The other major place is Japan, and the third place is Cuba. Cubans are absolutely crazy for baseball. Like Cubans from Cuba, and like Cuban exiles as well. Like they are tremendously into baseball. Very much so. So, Dominican Republic, I think a lot of like those islands are very much into baseball, but mostly like, and this is my point of view. It is mostly due to the fact that it is a way to get out of a bad situation financially. Dominican Republic, Haiti, Bahamas, all those places, the local population is not, like spending time on the beach having some fun, right? They're very hardworking people, very poor people, generally speaking. And if they can escape via baseball or any kind of other sport or that sort of a thing, it's a way to get out. And it's funny because Brazil, even though it's a very rich country, back then, very poor country, and football, football, or soccer is the way to get out. Especially like going and playing in other places like especially Europe. But yeah. Fun fact. If US Baseball Club had chosen Fidel Castro, he would have not have. No. All right, back to the movie. Like I said, one of the things that kind of put Billy in a sort of a mood, he's sitting there in the dugout, then essentially he goes to his owners like, look, we're playing against these. I need a little bit more money so I can build a better team, so I can compete a little bit with the big leagues, not the Yankees, but at least other teams that are sort of our level. And when he goes to his scouts, it's like, okay, there's rich teams and there are poor teams and there are 50 feet of crap, and then there's us. And he wasn't terribly wrong. They did put up the numbers, so like the yearly salaries or on the Yankees are like 114 million, which is bullshit. It was way more, and later on it was way more. And the Oakland A's are like 39 million, and that's a lot, by the way. Like the difference is a lot. Oh, they did scout Fidel Castro? All right. And hello, Kalikioki. Now, the guy who plays Grady, he was an honest-to-God baseball player, and when he was done playing baseball, he was actually a real-life scout in several different ball clubs. Not only that, all right, the actor playing the real scout guy in Oakland, right? He also was a vehement, like he disagreed with the entire Moneyball kind of way of doing things. And he thought that the old timers, the scouts, the guys who were out there looking at players and, you know, getting the real life instinct of like who's good, who's not. He was a true blue believer in that, in the old way of doing things. And he was so happy that he could play this character and actually give his real opinion. And that's why every single time he has an altercation, or not a physical altercation, but he has this discussion with Billy or this argument with Billy, that is like really him with his real passion. And this is something that you kind of can't fake. The fact of the matter is, most of the people in that table, and later on in the bigger table with some more scouts, most of them are actually actors, like real life actors. They don't know shit about baseball, essentially. But interspersed among them are real life old timey scouts that did not believe in the Moneyball whatsoever. And this is what Bennett Miller wanted to have on that table, to have these people give their real life opinions, or when Billy says something they don't believe in, have a real groan as if they were told that their way of life is like done. And he could get that reaction. It's very, very interesting how he did that. Very interesting how he did that. And then, of course, Billy goes to Cleveland. Now, you will forgive me that I have not read Lewis's book. I don't know what really happened with Paul D. Podesta. But as far as I know, he wasn't poached from Cleveland. The character of Peter Brand is just a substitute. That's why we had that whole scene where he goes to Cleveland, he talks to Shapiro, he has that whole, like, all the scouts are behind him. It was like, no, like, don't trade this, don't trade that. And Billy's like, okay, I'm being played here. And also there's a guy who just sabotaged the only guy that might have been traded to me, which was like Garcia or something. It's like, nah, no, not Garcia. All that stuff. And he goes and confronts this guy. He's like, who are you? It's like, I'm Peter Brand. No. Not what you do, not where you're coming from. Who are you? And why does Shapiro listens to you? And this is where the sort of a reveal happens, because Peter doesn't want to talk in the office, surrounded by everybody he works with. So Billy takes him out to the parking lot. Is like, okay, explain to me, what the fuck are you doing on this ball club, and who are you, and why did I just lose a trade because of you? And Peter's the guy who tells him about the Bill James method. It's like, I'm a proponent of the Bill James method. I went to Yale. I studied economics. I think there's something here that people are overlooking, which is we can find ball players that nobody sees the value in, and we will get them for cheap, especially because your ball club cannot pay too much in salaries. Like there's essentially a cap on their budget. Yes, they did. History works in mysterious ways. Oh, about about Fidel Castro, dude. I get it. If Fidel Castro would have pitched for the Mets, there was no revolution, and the Italian mob would have taken over Cuba, essentially. Maybe. Want to move forward a little bit. Now, one of the arguments that Miller or Sorkin, whoever approved the script, they wanted you to know a little bit about Billy Beane and why he came to the conclusion that the old timers are like dead in the water. They're just not working. Just upon his own personal experience. He was a star, not a star player, but a star prospect. It's like, you have the 5 things that we're looking for in a ball club. And if you just give up your Stanford, scholarship, we can draft you right here, right now, before you even go to college, and you have a bright future ahead of you. And Billy did not have a stellar career. He had all the potential, but he couldn't fulfill it. And this is only to put us, the viewers, in that mindset of like, okay, this is what Billy has against these people. He's listened to them not only this year or as a GM, he's been listening to them for his entire career. Not to mention the fact that Billy came on the Oakland A's as a scout rather than a GM. He was these scouts. He knew what the bullshit that they are going through in terms of his ideas. Oh, they're bullshitting us. And this, of course, leads us to Peter getting hired. He comes in early, and Billy's like, I wanted to have like 4, 5 different guys. It's like, I worked and I've got you like 41. No, I lied. I don't know why I lied. It's 56. All of that stuff adds in a little bit of levity. Not comedy like Soderbergh wanted, but I think some of that stuff kind of remained here and there in the script that Zalen wrote for Soderbergh. There's a lot of like little moments there that are like, it's not ha-ha funny comedy. It's sort of a, you chuckle a little bit. Like, oh, that was funny. It's like, why did he actually lie? They don't explain why he lied. Peter just wanted to overachieve. And this is how he did it. Yes, Sandra, and Michael Corleone would have become president. Not president. In Cuba, it's El Presidente. So he goes in. They analyze everything, and Billy is pretty happy. And before the real confrontation with the scouts begin, he has that side talk with Art Howe. Right? This is the moment where we kind of get introduced to Art Howe. Phillip Seymour Hoffman, this was one of his sort of last roles that he did. I think he died in 2014. So this was one of his last kind of big roles. I actually do like Phillip Seymour Hoffman in this role. I don't know who the real Art Howe is. Probably much different as he professed to be. But one of the things that Hoffman did in this role was play a completely different person. If you've ever seen Along Came Polly, he played the sidekick as a friend to Ben Stiller. It's a completely different person. If you watch Capote, it's a completely different person. If you watch the Mission Impossible movie, where he was sort of that villain, that's a completely different person. He manages to like wipe it away like a great actor should and put on a different mask and be this guy. Whether it's real or not, he embodied the role of Art Howe. the only kind of antagonist in this movie for real, other than those scouts. He represents also the old world, the old guard, the people who are resistant to the Moneyball system. But he had much more control because he's the guy on the pitch making those decisions. Who's going to try to steal third? Who's going to run off? Who's going to replace the pitcher? That's not a GM job. That's a manager job. And they kind of placed him in terms of script-wise as the only villain, I would say, in the entire movie for real, because he was so against this new system that when he's like, okay, I got nothing to lose, we're on the 20th, it doesn't really matter if Hatterberg gets this or not. It doesn't really matter. I'll just use him just to prove, to me, I felt like he was trying to prove a point to Billy that if he puts his guy, because Billy was pushing for Hatterberg the entire movie, if I put his guy, maybe we won't get the 20th, or maybe we will. But you, at that moment, you don't really know, because you had a look at him, and he looks at Hatterberg, and you really don't know what he's thinking. Is he thinking, I have no choice, or do I stick it to Billy Bean? You don't know at this moment. You really don't know. And when he gets that home run, the face of happiness kind of washes over whatever he was thinking. So you don't know what's going on. But that is that first conversation. That is that first scene where you see sort of like the good guy in the movie and the bad guy in the movie kind of square off, and we know who's who and what's what. And it's all throughout the movie up until the end. The scout meeting, the second one that we see in the movie. Now, you see Brad Pitt, and there's a guy in the gray white shirt with the ginger white hair. That's an actor. In between both of them, that's a real life scout. That's not an actor. And that's how they dispersed all these different guys there. One of the things that was like really, again, a comedy bit-ish was this guy who was playing a real-life assistant manager. I think Washington was his name. And this dude has a lot of those comedy bits still in the script, where I'm going to show it a little bit later. I need to push over, but one of the things that was stated is like, okay, who's going to play first? Do we need to teach them how to play first? Because none of them know how to play first base. It's like, who? One of those things. And when they go to Hatterberg, right, and they sit in the living room, it's like, Billy's like, well, we need you to play first base. It's like, I've never played first base. Well, it's the easiest position in the world. And then they go to the assistant manager, like, no, it's the hardest. Now, Ron Washington, thank you, Paul. Ron Washington. I think he was like in 4 or 5 different ball clubs, and he was very much an old head, very much against the Moneyball system. I mean, the real guy. But he was very much, he was known as a really good teacher. And when in the movie, Billy tells him, well, you can teach them to play it. The real life Ron Washington actually knew how to take a player and actually teach him how to play that position. Ron is still managing. Holy shit. Good on him. Good on him. But he was, I saw an interview with the actor, and he talked about Ron Washington, and he said, I love how I could bring his sort of like mentor element into the movie where it wasn't really written in the script, but it kind of was. But I pushed for it to be as much as making sure this guy gets the credit he deserves. Because essentially he was known as a guy who can take a player and be methodical and teach him how to play out of position and make him into a position that the ball club wanted him to play. All right. Moving forward to the awkward conversation. And you can tell that nobody of the three people there wanted to talk to each other. He's in the Dodgers now. Good on him. He's got 2 rings? Oh, depending on what time he started. In the past, 4 years, they got 2 rings, if I'm not mistaken. 2 pennants. Sorry, 2 pennants. That awkward conversation and all they wanted to talk about, all they wanted to be is somewhere else. And now, I have never been divorced. Thank you, Lord and Savior. But I've seen people in that situation, and it's always kind of awkward in a way, even if they're just talking chit chat, like blah blah chit chat. It's always awkward. They have the little argument about the phone and why a 12-year-old should get a phone. This was 2002. Yeah, in 2002, I barely had a phone. But you kind of get an inkling about Billy and how much he loves his kid. Now, I'm pretty sure the mom loves the kid as well. They don't get into sort of like the dysfunctional family dynamic in this. But he is encouraging her to actually go ahead and make the song and even sing it right there in the shop. And, I don't want to embarrass you, but I really want to hear your song because you sound amazing. Now, I will tell you that my kid went to it's called voice development, which is essentially knowing how to use your voice to sing rather than I'll teach you how to sing. Like, no, using your voice and everything. And she liked it for a while, but after a while, she's like, Dad, she kind of taught me all I needed to know in the first 2 lessons. And I love to sing, but I don't want to develop it too much. I was like, okay, fine. So I did encourage her to go ahead and try it, even though she was like, I don't know. That it's not pushing you to do stuff, it's giving you a nudge and the opportunity. And if it doesn't work out and you don't like it, it's like, I'm not going to push you if you don't really want it. So Billy does the same thing. He doesn't push her. He just gives her the nod and gives her the tools, essentially that guitar, to develop her singing and maybe songwriting and all that stuff. And like I love to do is like that setup and payoff where he pulls off that disc of her singing to him about like, you're a loser, but you get over it, essentially you're a loser, but get over it. All right. Essentially, there's a moment where Grady is like, you're ruining this ball club. You're going to like burn in hell, not burn in hell, but you're going to get fired and all that stuff. Is like, we're not going to do well at all. And this is the start of the season. They're starting to lose or have a not like a losing season. It's like, I'm not going to fire you, Grady. And then he says, well, fuck you, Billy. I was like, now you're fired. I love that exchange. Love that exchange and they positioned Art Howe not in the conversation, but at a sort of a dressing room or a massage area of sorts. And you can tell it's like, oh my God, this is what I got to deal with, this Billy Bean guy. I can't believe this guy's ruining our ball club. Oh, sorry. This was preseason. Sorry. That was preseason. Then, of course, we've got spring training. And like I said, the guy playing Ron Washington has sort of like the best comedic-ish lines where everybody's there is serious. And he is, not that he's not serious, but he's sort of that least serious. And it cuts through that tension in that entire room and makes that entire scene sort of like less awkward in a way, where when Billy was sitting there with his ex-wife and her husband, you felt the awkwardness in the room. In this room, it was a little bit more serious, but then that guy cuts through that with a little bit of, throws a haymaker in there, and it's like, okay, it's serious, but there's still a little bit of levity in terms of how the movie proceeds. It's not dire, even though it's going there. They lead us there, but it's not super dire. But then, of course, the season starts. And as much as Billy wanted, Hatterberg to start at first, Art Howe does not start him at first. Billy's like, hold on, trying to get there. Peter is sending messages like, what, Pena, not Hatterberg? Question mark. And he's looking at it, and he's opening the TV, and he sees Pena going up to first. He's like, God damn it. And he turns it off again. And this is, like I said, from the very beginning, Billy's like watching a little bit and then shutting it down. And then watching it a little bit and then shutting it down. And then at the very start, he goes down the bleachers and out like into the ball club. And one of the guards there is listening to the game on the TV. It's like, no, don't shut the TV. It's fine. You can watch. I don't mind it. I'll just walk away. And this is, again, that thing where he peeks around, sort of like peeking around the veil or around the screen a little bit, and then turning it off again and just walking away and hoping for the best. And he had that conversation. It's like, Art, we're trying to do a thing here, Art. I need you to play ball. And Art is reluctant. Art is like, look, I'm the manager. You're the GM. I'm on the field. You build me a team. That's where it ends. That's where it's going to be. And Art knows that Billy is not intending on firing him. He fired Grady because he was a scout, and he disagreed with Billy, but when he cursed Billy out, that's where he got fired. Art doesn't curse Billy out. He's like, you don't understand. I have a job to do, and I'm doing my job, and you will do your job, which is get me ball players. And this is sort of how Billy gets around the whole Pena Hatterberg thing, essentially. And things do not go well at all. Do not go well at all until they're starting to do some trades and they're starting to talk to the players. Billy sends Peter with the team in order for him to feel the team out, plus the team to know who is this guy. And he has that conversation with David Justice. And David brings out why do we have to pay for soda in the ball club? Why isn't it free? And Peter doesn't know the answer, even though Peter is an economics guy and he's a numbers guy. He doesn't know why there's not free drinks. And it's so weird because in the first kind of trade that Billy does, he gets a player and also gets someone to pay for the sodas just because of that conversation. You never hear directly that the soda thing bothers the players and it goes to Billy. There's no exchange in the movie that you actually see, but because Peter knows about it from David Justice, it reaches Billy when Billy does the trade. Oh, suddenly there's free drinks for everybody for the next 3 seasons. It's a very roundabout way of telling you a story about a gripe that gets solved. And it's one of those things that are like, it's those small little things that happened during that season that pushed everybody towards whatever it was that made the streak going. Let me do this. Excuse me. And again, after they tried, the season starts, they kind of have a losing situation where that are like at 0.35 or 0.25 or whatever. They have a losing season and it doesn't work out. And Billy's like, I'm going to get fired. So I'm going to go and ask for more money. And his owner is like, no, absolutely not. And even his daughter is like, Dad, are you scared you're going to be, fired because nobody believes your system? And Billy's like, no, honey, everything is fine. Don't worry. I'll still be here. Don't worry about it. Blah, blah, blah. And it seems like Billy does not believe in himself that much. And yet he still goes to Art Howe in front of everybody and is like, why aren't you playing Hatterberg? It's like, I love Hoffman in this, especially here. It's like, he's barely talking, half swallowing his entire dialogue, and essentially tells Billy to fuck off. Like, it's not the first time, but this seems to be like that moment where it's like, it's the last time I'm going to tell you to fuck off. I'm playing what I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. Get away from me. Do what you have to do. And this is the point where Billy is like, okay, so I'm building the team and you're playing the team. So you don't want to play Hatterberg. You want to play Pena. Let's just send Pena away. And another sort of catalyst on changing the team is where Billy, that moment where they cross paths after a game, after they cross paths after a game that they lost, I think it was to the Orioles or something. You could definitely cut the tension with a knife in this moment. That's one of those great moments where there's no dialogue and it's just two guys going into this hall, one against the other. Nobody talks, nobody says hi, nobody says nothing, and you can definitely tell what Billy's thinking, and you could definitely tell what Art is thinking at this moment. And you're like, this could explode at the drop of a hat or a drop of a dime, and it just doesn't happen. They just cross each other like two trains in a rainy night. I know, it's a stupid metaphor. Don't worry about it. But it's a great moment where it seems like Art is disappointed, but he's not mad. And Billy is fucking furious. So much so that he goes into the locker room because he hears music and everybody's dancing. It's like, why are you dancing? Did you not just lose? Why is there happiness and dancing and music? You just lost. And he turns off the radio. Or no, he destroys the radio. And he's like, you got me? And there's like, he's like, what is this? Oh yeah, this is the sound of losing. But then he proceeds to destroy a Gatorade and other things because he is absolutely furious. And what he does, he decides to be a GM rather than try and convince his manager to do what they needed him to do. One of the things is he tells Peter Brand, okay. And this is the payoff to the setup that they did earlier where they were sitting around in Billy's office and Billy tells Peter about how to fire a ball player or how to trade a ball player and why Billy doesn't meet the players, which obviously in the movie he does later on, which kind of breaks his whole mantra of not mingling with the players and not talking to them in order for them to have that barrier of, okay, you're traded or I have to cut you or fire you and do it in a very sort of clean cut, emotionless way. And this is what he taught, Peter to do. When he gets back into this office at this moment in this movie, this is that payoff where like, I need you to take Pena and tell him that we traded him to the Detroit. And you see that back and forth between him and Shapiro as well on the phone where he cleverly, like, Peter understands how things are, how the cookie crumbles or how the cookie is created in terms of trading and moving and how do GMs work with other GMs. And this is just looking at Billy and listening to Billy and the other guy on the phone. And of course he goes out and is like, okay, Pena, you're traded into the Detroit. And then Peter and Billy go into Art Howe's office. And it's like, oh, well, you can't play Pena. You have to play Hatterberg. And Art is like, I've told you for the last time, I'm playing who I want to play. It's like, okay, it's fine because Pena's not here. And during that conversation, Jeremy Giambi comes in. It's like, okay, Jeremy, we've traded you away to like the Phillies or whatever. See you later. Have this. This guy will take care of you. He's the travel agent, blah, 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 and get the fuck out. And Art is livid at this point. It's like, what are you doing? And it's so crazy because Giambi or Jeremy Giambi is the guy that essentially Billy brought in for the Moneyball. But now it's a whole different change. I don't know how that has to do with us, but Tarot Destroyer, save that maybe for a different day. Yeah. Save that for a rainy day. It's not really what we're doing here. And now that those players got traded, we go into this montage. We got that conversation between Billy and David Justice as well, where he tells him, I need you to be a leader. This is after, like I said, there's a montage of sorts. Every movie needs a montage. and he talks to the players. He talks to, Peter goes and talks to the player. Look, I hate to do this, but I will definitely not be disturbed. We will see you later. Bye. Goodbye. So long. Goodbye. Thank you, Paul. Appreciate it. I rarely ban people from chat. I want you to say what you want to say, but if you're disturbing, then you will get the fuck out. It disturbs me and it ruins the show. So it will be deleted and get out of here. Goodbye. See you later. All right. Like I said, we have a little bit of a montage, and it's sort of like it's that mood changer before the sort of like the good stuff happens in the movie, where stuff is starting to happen. Trades have been made. Now the movie isn't moving. And you have Billy and David Justice having this conversation. I cannot do this. Hold the phone. Why are you not doing this? Oh, thank you, Paul. I see the messages, but I see you've banned them already, or they're not showing up on YouTube, but they are showing up on StreamYards, which is weird. There we go. It's so weird that sort of it's probably a bot or whatever, because it, like I said, shows up on StreamYards, does not show on YouTube, so you don't even know what I'm talking about. I'm sorry. Let's go on with the show. So Billy talks to David Justice, and then, of course, Justice kind of has that weird conversation with Hatterberg in the office, and all the while, things are starting to change. So they win, and they win again, and suddenly it's a 7-win streak, and then the 7 turns into 10, and the 10 into 12, and the 12 into 14, and suddenly we're talking about something completely different. And then, of course, the trade deadline. And this is one of the greatest baseball GM scenes you'll ever get to see, as one GM tries to outdo the other GM to get the cheapest players available. Now, one of the things that kind of was, set up at the beginning is Billy really wanted Ricardo Rincon, and he couldn't get him because it was too costly. And all this runaround, all this tension, all this, hyping up one player in order to get a different player and trying to, address the system and all that good stuff, only to get the player that he wanted from the ball club. He actually went down there and talked to the other GM to, but couldn't get him at the start. And now mid-season, where everything kind of rolls into, a different way, One player gets hot, one player gets cold, and now he can get him at really cheap, or at least as cheap as humanly possible, because of that budget constraints that Billy had all throughout the ball club, or all throughout the movie, I would say. Sorry. And that moment where even Brand was into like trying to convince the owner to fork over some money. And it's a neat little trick and it works really well in the movies, but I bet you it's not like it wasn't done for real. As he's like, okay, you pay for him now and I will pay for it from my pocket, but if we sell them for more, I get the profits. And it's a sweet, neat little way of, trying to get a player that you want for more money than the owner wants to pay for him. And it sort of kind of shouldn't work, but it does, And we have that moment. That moment is like, it's a meme now for sure, but it's a sweet moment because it's the moment where Peter Brand is like, yeah, I get it. I get it now, how you do things. Right? So the streak goes and it goes and it goes. And again, after that moment, after that last day of trading, it actually goes completely into like, this hasn't been done since 1936 by the Yankees. This hasn't been done since, the White Sox from this era and that era. And this is like just to accentuate how amazing that streak was. Now, like I said, if you're not into baseball and don't know what it is, blah, 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 you don't actually get it apart from the fact that it's so amazing. And that's the feeling that Bennett Miller wanted to convey. It's that even if you don't know baseball, you do know that having this many wins is very, very, very good. And it's never been done before. And Billy's in this car. He's talking to his ex-wife and then talking to his daughter. I was like, Dad, you really, really, really need to go and see this this ball game. And this is the point where it's like the third inning or the fourth inning, and it's 11-0. And okay, the streak is going to be breaking. So Billy is like, okay, I'm not gonna jinx it this time. I'm just gonna go and maybe enjoy the show. And once he gets there, it's so cliche, but as soon as you see Billy walk inside the stadium, it cuts to lights and a dark cloud all over the sky. It's like, okay, this is going to go really, really, really badly. And it sets up beautifully. And one of the things that is brought up really early is the fact that Billy says, how can you not be romantic about baseball? And one of those things is essentially, you can say it on any sport, but it seems like there are moments in baseball that are truly memorable just because it went one way and it went a different way, and the outcome is very satisfying to the winner and very, very painful to the loser. I had that moment with the Yankees 3 times. And it fucking sucks to be on the losing side of it. But yeah. All right. We'll do a quick stop here and we'll play our second game of the night. Where is it? Where is it? There it is. You know it. You love it. It is called Cinema Deathmatch.
Round 1, fight.
I know it's Screen Fighter, but originally it's called Cinema Deathmatch. I brought it back. It's Cinema Deathmatch. All right. Cinema Deathmatch is where we take two movies, pit them together, and see which one is the best one. If there's no discernible difference between the two, both of them are good or both of them are bad, we fall into our criteria, which is Saturday evening, Friday evening, out with the boys, out with the girls, out with your significant other. Two movies in a vacuum. Which one will we pop in? Now, you guys have to cooperate with me. You guys are watching. I know some of you are lurking and maybe watching something else, but I do need you. Here it is. Lethal Weapon 2 or AI, Artificial Intelligence, or simply called AI. Now, this one is a very easy choice for me because I am too old for this shit. And when I say shit, I mean AI. AI is not a terrible movie per se by Steven Spielberg. Now, hear me out. It's not a terrible movie. It's a very well put together movie. It's just boring. And the only reason Haley Joel Osment is in this movie, the only reason is the fact that he's the guy from The Sixth Sense. That's it. He was absolutely fucking terrible in this movie. Mostly because the dialogue was boring and it was just way too long. Way too long. Plus, it's Lethal Weapon 2. Now, Flickchart has been having issues, and I think I mentioned it a couple of weeks ago. A week ago, it was fine. And, you know, some weeks are like, All right, cool. Nacho Libre or Just Married? Now, see, I told you. It's going to suck. All right, never mind. New pairing. Blind Date or Ryan? I haven't seen Ryan. I did see the other two, sadly. By the way, on the other two, it's Nacho Libre. Because Just Married is fucking dumb. They're both dumb, but... Oh, don't do this to me. Don't do this to me. Okay, if this doesn't cooperate, then I will leave it be. Okay. Hopefully it'll stay this. Blind Date or Alien 3, ladies and gentlemen, cast your vote. Okay. This is not going to happen. Of these two, is the Da Vinci Code, the Philadelphia Story is just too outdated to me. It's not a bad movie, but it's slow. It's just slow. It's Cary Grant and James Stewart fighting for the love of Katharine Hepburn, essentially. Alien 3. Alien 3 and Blind Date, I would say probably Alien 3. Blind Date is fun, but it's not good. Alien 3 is still an Alien movie. I know it's David Fincher, and I know it's not the best Alien movie around. It's not as terrible as people make it out to be. I'm sorry. It's not like a 10. It's not even an 8. It's a solid 7 Alien story. It's better than Resurrection. It's better than Prometheus. It's better than Dark Covenant. Is it better than the new one? It's even better than the new one, even though the Bishop replacement character was really good. Not enough. It still has a solid continuity. I guess it has flaws. It It has a lot of flaws, but essentially the action is good. It's still a confined space where Alien is built for a confined space because you don't know where it's going to come. Like I said, there are flaws in the story. There are flaws in what they were trying to get to. And the fact that Ripley was already implanted, which is hamstrung. Blind Date is just fun popcorn 6. It's not even a 7. It has a funny Bruce Willis in it, and he was playing like David Edison again, which I like, but it's not for everybody. All right, cool. I'm sorry that that website is starting to be annoying, so you might actually do a different, try to make it a little bit different next time. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. It's an old website, by the way, so things are going the wrong way. Things are going the wrong way. Billy goes back into the locker room and is like, or the weight room, essentially. And he's like, it feels like he's reverting back to where he started in the movie, where he feels like he's the jinx. He feels like he brings the bad luck. He can't watch the success or the failure, especially the failure. But then, of course, like I said, Art Howe looks at the other side of the table. Of course, he has those flashbacks, like in the start of the movie, where it's his career on the line and what he has to give up. And like I said before, I don't know what this character of Art, was thinking. Was he trying to, put like a stick in the spokes kind of a thing? Or maybe he's like, maybe this is going to work. Maybe he's turning around. We don't know if it's his turnaround moment or not. Because essentially in the past 19 games, they were winning. And essentially it kind of proves his GM rather than his managerial qualities. So it's like, okay, Hatterberg, take at bat. And Hatterberg takes at bat and he hits a home run. And I like the fact that they used sound or sound mixing to make sure that when Hatterberg kind of hits and you only hear ball hitting bat, Billy hears that. Where essentially he wouldn't have, but, it serves a purpose in this movie. It serves a really neat purpose in this movie. And again, it kind of contributes to that turnaround. And when everything kind of ends, right? Oh, come on, game. When everything kind of ends, we go straight into the last game of the season, which is essentially the A's losing to the Twins in the playoffs and not actually making it to the championship. And this is the gripe that Billy had, because he went to Brent's office after the win and he wasn't happy at all. He wasn't happy with the win streak, because all he was thinking is, I don't want to win the league. I want to win the championship. I don't want to even win the ALDS or the wild card. I want to win the entire thing and to prove to everybody that we could do it with this system. And even And even Brandt doesn't actually think about this. It was like, Billy's the only guy who seemingly, just seemingly, thinking about the end goal rather than just this mini goal that is meaningless. Now, if you think about it, and again, I will travel away from baseball and into the world of basketball, especially NBA, where in 2016, the Golden Gate Warriors had a 73 winning game season, which broke the previous 72 win game season, which was held by the Bulls, the Chicago Bulls, the most dominant team ever to play the game. But the Warriors are not credited as the best team ever, even though they did broke that record, that winning record. And you know why? And this is exactly what Billy is saying. In that year where they essentially lost 9 games in the regular season, they did not win the championship. They got to the game, they didn't win the championship, which means that entire season meant nothing. Absolutely nothing. And this is exactly what Billy was saying. It's like, this win streak is great and we will be remembered for it. But if we don't win a championship, it means nothing. So Billy is not even enjoying this record that they got. He cannot enjoy it at all. He just is thinking about the end goal. If we don't get the end goal, you see the hurt, because he knew that would hurt a lot if they don't win, and they did not win. But of course, we have sort of a prologue where Billy goes to the Red Sox, and the guy in the Red Sox is like, yeah, we already hired Bill James already, but we want you to be the GM for this team. And the problem is Billy's daughter is on the West Coast, even though she is traveling by plane back and forth between San Francisco and essentially LA, but they don't say LA. And being in Boston is on the other side of the continent, which is very much a different thing for Billy. And again, they don't say it in the movie, but he essentially made his decision after he listened to his daughter's singing. But also, I think it's a kind of a pride thing where Billy wanted to win with the underdog, essentially, or proving that the Moneyball can win regardless of if you have money to back it up or don't. Because the Red Sox are essentially they have Yankee money. They're not the richest team in baseball, but one of the richest teams in baseball. And this is essentially what he talks to Brand about, because Brand is like, so what did they offer you? And Billy doesn't even say it. He just takes that napkin with the offer that he got from Boston and he slides it over the table. And Brand looks at it, and they don't say the number right up until the end, but like, this is going to make you the highest paid GM in all of baseball. And later on, we kind of get to know that it's $12 million. And then this is 2002 money. This is 20 years ago money, of course. And Billy seemed to not want to take it. And this leads both of them to this scouting room that Brent kept sitting in with his computer. And he talks about this player who's seemingly fat, who has a home run, but he was so afraid to get to second, he barely made it into first, and he did not even know he hit a home run, as sort of an allegory to the Oakland A's, essentially, or maybe even to Billy himself, right? Sort of a way to like saying we still have lots of players who have lots of potential, but the old guard sees them as too fat, too ugly, or their girlfriend is too ugly, so they don't have confidence, blah, blah, blah. All the non-essentials, as they call it, but they can hit, they do get on base, and they will eventually win ball games. And the last scene is, of course, Billy with listening to his daughter's song. Kind of gives him that last decision of, I'm not gonna join the Red Sox at all. And it ends with that and a little bit more information about, a little bit of information. So the Red Sox took notice of the Moneyball, essentially saying, well, all of the teams are now playing with the Moneyball in mind. And the old guard has suddenly and really been kind of put by the wayside, even though I'm not really sure what baseball is all about right now, but I kind of got the feeling that a lot of ball clubs are like thinking with that Moneyball system in mind and looking at stats differently the way they looked at them for essentially 100 years. Very interesting. And I'll ask you again, you guys, what do you think? Is Moneyball a baseball movie or not? To me, Moneyball is very much a baseball movie. It's very much talks about the other side of what we kind of discussed in Field of Dreams, actually. And the other side is not about the old guard and the new guard. Is actually the other side of what the game is all about. Where in Field of Dreams, it was all about fathers and sons. And Moneyball is a lot more to do with the business side. But also, it kind of threads the needle and talks about how romantic it is. And I mentioned it, that Billy says it, like, how could this game not be romantic? How could you not be romantic about this game? Because of those little stories that happens to every single team here and there, or every single player here and there. The Babe Ruth story, the Joe DiMaggio story, the Mickey Mantle story, all those guys, the Pete Rose story, the Ty Cobb story, every single, like, even the Randy Johnson story in Arizona, Randy Johnson and Curt Schilling story in Arizona, and how they like willed this Arizona Diamondbacks into actually winning the entire pennant against the New York Yankees by literally pitching day after day, just to make sure to get those last strikes or to get those things. Curt Schilling with the bloody foot playing. It is a baseball movie. Like Paul said, it's very much a baseball movie. It talks about the romanticism of how like an underdog story, the ultimate underdog story. Kind of like in Major League, but in Major League it's much more of a comedy bit rather than a serious movie. And then this movie is very serious, but it also depicts very romantically how a ball club got into position that they could break a record that is preposterous in that specific game. in that specific game. Winning 20 games is very hard. Very, very hard. Not because the game is so hard. It's just the way the game is constructed is uniquely positioned to make it very difficult to day after day after day after day win for 20 games. Remember, if you don't know or don't know, if you're on the road, you're going to be on the road for a couple of weeks, and every other day or day after day, you're essentially playing the same team, and you're playing them for 3, 4, 5 games, and then you're moving on to the next. So you're facing the same team day after day for 3, 4 days, and you have to win all those games. Very, very, very hard. I'm being corrected. Kurt Flood, the Cardinal Way, Stan Musial. Yeah, all these different stories. Dude, there's so many different stories. I'm a Bill Buckner incident. Yeah, everything. In one of my favorite movies of all time, Good Will Hunting, there is that story of the Red Sox winning their not the entire not the World Series, but going into the World Series, and how Sean missed the game because I gotta go see gotta go see about a girl, right? All about a girl, and that game had a full story behind it with Pudge winning and not being able to go to home because everybody was rushing the field. All of those stories, there's lots of different stories. I'm sure if you're a fan of baseball or if you're a fan of a specific team, in '89 they had the game of blah 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 blah, and you had that story. And yeah, it's no different from any other story in every other different game. I mean, baseball, football, hockey, soccer, whatever. Every single team has that game. But baseball has uniquely weird, funny, great, romantic kind of stories that are attached to it and are very much placed in Americana, I would say. Very much so. Much more different. Maybe because everything is more theatrical in the US. I don't know. It's really weird, but it's very, very much so. The closest I can get to, and it's a really good equivalent, is soccer, specifically in Britain, in England, in the UK. Very much, there are stories like that in the Premier League in the UK. There are lots of different stories like that. And soccer in the UK are very much like the US in baseball. Very much so. Again, that romanticism about the sport as well. All right. My voice is completely shot. I've talked for about a couple of hours by myself. Hopefully I didn't bore you guys. And I hope you enjoyed yourself. Next week, hopefully everything will be normal. But next week, we're going to go a little bit more light, a little bit more fun. No, it's not Major League. But we're going to talk about The Sandlot. So we talked about grown-ups. We talked everything about grown-ups. Now we're going to go some kids' way because it very much is a game that kids could play since a very early age. So we're gonna go watch Sandlot from 1993, and we're gonna talk about it next week. So guys, remember, hope is a good thing, maybe even the best of things, and no good thing ever dies. My voice is shot. I love you all. We'll see you next week. You're still here? It's over.
Go home.